श्री गुरुदेव की मधुर स्मृतियों में आप सभी का स्वागत है. I welcome all of you on this program, श्री गुरुदेव की मधुर स्मृतियां. We'll start this program with Jai Dhwani. जय श्री गुरु गौरांग गंधर्विका गिरधारी श्री राधा विनोद बिहारी जी की जय. श्री राधा रमन जी की जय. नित्य लीला प्रविष्ट ओम विष्णु पादष्टो तथा श्रीमद भक्ति वेदांत श्री नारायण गोस्वामी महाराज की जय. रूपानु गुरुवर की जय. वृंदावन नवदीप धाम की जय. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वंद की जय. गौर भक्तवंद की जय. श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय. गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि. Today we are very fortunate to have among us Radhika. She's joined us from USA, and she has been associated with Srila Gurudev from very young age. Also, we are very fortunate today to have Haripriya Didi with us. She's going to host programs, so I welcome her in this team. And she'll be helping all of us and doing these programs now onwards. So today's program will be hosted by Haripriya Didi only. And I must tell you, Haripriya and Radhika are good friends, so it will be easier for them to talk to each other. So, okay, Haripriya, you can take over, you can start now.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. First of all, I just want to offer my respectful obeisances onto the lotus feet of my Guru Pad Padma, Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and beg for his mercy, and also onto our whole Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Varga. I want to thank Ajay Prabhu and Vijay Krishna Prabhu for engaging me in this seva of hosting or co-hosting sometimes. It gives me such an amazing opportunity to hear about Gurudev's glories and all his wonderful pastimes from all his beloved sons and daughters. So when I found out I was hosting today, and it was Radhika Manchanda, I was so happy because not only is she my dear little sister, she's such a beloved, dear, darling daughter of Srila Gurudev. I'll give a little more introduction of hers after she sings. So she's going to sing bhajan now. Radhika, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
We'll just be sharing the. Okay.
Jai Srila Gurudev ki Vandeham Shri Guruvaram Shri Rupanoga Pravaram Vrajarasarakam cha Narayanam Tam Kripana Shri Guru Charanam Vande Ramana Prishthaya Bhutale Rupanuga Bhakti Vipamurti Narayanam Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachadishtatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhobhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gurudev Kripa करके मुझे को अपना लेना गुरुदेव शरण पदा तेरी चरणों में जगा देना मैं शरण पदा तेरी चरणों में जगा देना चरणों में जगा देना ओ चरणों में जगा देना करुणा निधि नाम तेरा करुणा बरसावो तुम ओ सोए हुए भाग्य को हे नाथ जगाओ तुम मेरी नाव भंवर डोले उसे पार लगा देना उसे पार लगा देना गुरुदेव कृपा करके मुझे को अपना लेना गुरुदेव कृपा करके मुझे को अपना लेना तुम सुख के सागर हो भक्ति के सहारे हो मेरे मन में समाये हो मुझे प्राणों से प्यारे हो मुझे प्राणों से प्यारे हो नित्यमाल जपो तेरी ओ मेरे दोष भुला देना गुरुदेव कृपा करके मुझे को अपना लेना गुरुदेव कृपा करके मुझे को अपना लेना मैं संत का सेवक हूँ गुरु चरणों की दासी हूँ नहीं नाथ बुलाना मुझे इस जग में अकेली हूँ इस जग में अकेली हूँ तेरी द्वार का भिखारी हो नहीं दिल से भुला देना गुरुदेव कृपा करके मुझे को अपना लेना मैं शरण पदा तेरी चरणों में जगा देना चरणों Srila Gurudev ki jai. Gauriya
Yeah,
Guru Maharaj ki jai.
yeah. Thank you, Radhika. That was really beautiful. And as we all heard, Radhika is a very accomplished, very beautiful singer. She's sung many, many times for Gurudev. Srila Gurudev always calls upon her at the festivals. And there's actually a video we'll share later as well of her singing so beautifully. And certainly, she always inspired me so much. Whenever I heard her sing, it just felt like um, some like Apsara from the heavenly planets. So, just a little introduction about Radhika. She's born into a devotee family. So, one of our Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev's children, right from birth. And her mother is very, very sweet devotee as well, Manjari Didi. Many people know she's very dedicated and a dear disciple of Srila Gurudev's. And she was actually named by Srila Prabhupada. So even her mother is born devotee and into the shelter of Srila Prabhupada. So Radhika, and then her grandparents. Her grandparents are very prominent disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and I believe Radhika's grandfather was a sannyasi of Srila Prabhupada. So Radhika certainly carries the whole family's legacy, and we can certainly see that in her character now. She's just serving and dedicated so much. So she's from California, and um, one thing, I mean, so Gurudev, as Ajay Prabhu said, Gurudev came to California in either 98 or 99 when Radhika met him for the first time, sorry. And at the same time, she took Harinam from Srila Gurudev. And since then, she has been fully dedicated to Srila Gurudev, in love with Gurudev. Because I can say this because every time I've met her, I think I met her in 2003. I was trying to remember, and we actually met in Kartik in Govardhan, and I actually have pictures from that time. And I just remember ever since then, almost 20 years now, every time I meet Radhika, she exudes love for Gurudev in her actions, in her with her words, and in her service. She's always engaged in glorifying Gurudev with her words and using her body and her energy to serve Gurudev. So and every time I meet her, I'm hearing so many amazing stories about and experiences of hers with Gurudev. So I'm really excited to hear some of those experiences because I know she's like a treasure chest of full of memories, Gurudev memories. And then couple of things I just want to share is that also her love for Jagannath Ji. So I think Radhika can give us some darshan later, but she actually has Jagannath Ji, Jagannath Baladev, and Subhadra from um, from Gurudev's temple in Jagannath Puri, now in her home. So we can see not only her love for Jagannath, but also Jagannath's love for her. And there's a really mystical story of how they ended up there. But also, she came on TV in Orissa because one year in Rath Yatra in Jagannath Puri, she was crying from her heart right in front of Jagannath, in front of his Rath. And I guess the reporters saw this semi Videsi looking girl crying her heart out for Jagannath, and they were so wonderstruck that there was a whole episode on TV. I wish we could show that, but it was so sweet just to see Radhika crying her heart out for Jagannath. And I always remember Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev always said, cry for Krishna, cry. And I always see Radhika crying her heart out for Krishna, for Gurudev, for Jagannath. So this is so inspiring. And so many other things, Radhika's, I've always seen her being engaged in seva. She was one of the prominent members in putting the samadhi together. She's under the shelter and guidance of Shripad Premanand Prabhu. And I know she works so hard in the Gurudev Samadhi and painting all those statues. I forgot what they're called, and working on those. So we have some pictures as well. We'll share that. And through her dancing, her singing, and traveling and preaching, she continues to serve Srila Gurudev every day till today. So it's my absolute pleasure and honor to introduce our dear Radhika, who is Srila Gurudev's dear darling daughter. Dandavat Pranam, Radhika.
Dhanyavad Haripriya ji, Didi. I'm so happy that you're hosting today. And most of what she said is actually not true at all. I'm ekdam fallen badajiv and constantly struggling, but by Srila Gurudev's somehow, some way, we've all had the great fortune of having the jewel of Srila Gurudev in our lives, and that is his causeless mercy and Krishna's causeless mercy upon our life. There's no cause, reason for it except for their mercy itself. So Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurimilitam Jena Tasmaya Shri Guruve Namaha Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasinubhyo Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So first of all, offering my heartfelt pranam unto the lotus feet of His Divine Grace, Srila Gurudev, and my spiritual grandfather, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, and onto the lotus feet of all the Vaishnavas who have served him, and all the Vaishnavas that will serve him. Please accept my Dandavat Pranam to Ajay Prabhu and Haripriya Didi and all the assembled Vaishnavas. So, when I first met Srila Gurudev, I didn't know exactly anything because I was just a small girl and I had grown up in the ISKCON Gurukul, and I would always look at the Murti of Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada was so real to us growing up. Like, he was literally like my grandfather, maybe possibly my first word was Prabhupada. And I would always look at him and I would always just feel that that he was so present. I never felt that I hadn't met him. I always felt that he was so present. And I would talk to his murti. And so when my mother had said that we're going to meet an elderly Vaishnava who is a very dear friend of Srila Prabhupada's, and I didn't know what to expect. She had met him a little bit earlier than me, and he was arriving in Los Angeles. And one of my little friends from Gurukul had already taken initiation from him. So I had heard this term, initiation, and I thought, as a kid, if one kid has something that you don't have, then you want that thing, right? If one kid has a candy bar, then you go, oh, I want that candy bar because he has that candy bar. So one of my friends from my school, I'd heard that he has initiation. So I thought, I'll get it too, right? Before I went to meet Gurudev, before even meeting him, I knew that I'm going to get that thing called initiation. But I didn't realize what it was. I mean, when I saw Gurudev for the first time, it was like, it was love at first sight. I mean, it was literally like, I loved him from the first moment that he walked out of the plane. It was a love that I couldn't even understand. I felt so comfortable. I felt like I had never, I felt like I had never not known him. For any moment of all of my existence from endless time immemorial, there was never a moment when I didn't know Gurudev and Gurudev didn't know me. So he walked out of the airplane and all the devotees were singing Namami Nandanam, and Gurudev had that very sweet kind of crooked glance, one eyebrow raised, and he was doing this with his finger, like go on, you know how he would do with his finger, very sweetly. And I heard people saying, oh, Gurudev, right? And then I told my mom, my mom said to me, oh, do you want him to be your Gurudev? And I was like, yes, definitely. So she said, okay, go ask him. And while you're at it, ask him for the cotton in his ear, because he used to keep some chandan, you know, from chandan from Thakurji. It smells beautiful in his ear. So I just went right up to him and I said, will you be my Gurudev? And he got the biggest smile, just completely like, you know, and then he just patted me on the head really lovingly, like my grandfather, and said, yes, certainly, yes. And, you know, his chuckle. And then I said, and can I have the cotton in your ear? Like that. And he gave me the little, such a funny question to ask, you know. He gave me the little cotton in his ear. And then after that, Gurudev was in LA and he actually came to our house. So that was like I had just met Gurudev, and then immediately he was coming to my house. And, you know, everyone was preparing, and my little friend, childhood friend, Janava, was there. And she said, let's go pick flowers for Gurudev for when he comes, you know. And this is all so new to me, but it's just like the minute you meet Gurudev, it's just like all of a sudden everything that happened in your life before that, it just disappeared, like suddenly, you know. And it was so magical. So we went and we picked this whole big bowl of flowers, and Srila Gurudev came into the house, and then I was just standing there frozen with all the flowers, what to do. And then Gurudev was laughing, and he stuck his hands in the bowl and took all the flowers and started to throw them on us and throw them on himself also, like that. So he was very, very sweet right from the very beginning, very jovial and laughing and always smiling and sweet. And, you know, sometimes we hear these stories of Srila Gurudev when he was in the mutt and with the brahmacharis and how he was so heavy and this. And I go, I don't know that Gurudev. Like, yes, it's true. Gurudev has so many forms and so many, you know, so many different relationships. But the relationship that I've mostly known with Gurudev has been just like, of course, everything Gurudev does is so lovely and so loving, but just very soft, very, very soft, and very, 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 very sweet. And one of the first things that I remember, so after that, so we were in Los Angeles. And after that, immediately came the Badger Festival. So, and I believe at that time, Srila Gurudev was still speaking like in the morning and in the evening time. So there was a lot of Harikatha that was flowing out from his heart. And one of the first things that I remember is that I had never heard my name spoken with so much love. My name was Radhika, but in ISKCON, I had never heard Radhika, right? Sometimes we would hear Radha, sometimes, but when we met Gurudev, Every other word was Srimati Radhika, Srimati Radhika, Srimati Radhika, Srimati Radhika, Srimati Radhika, all the time. And Rupa Manjari and Rati Manjari and this and that. And I was just like blown away, because the way to hear Gurudev, it was an impression. I never knew, what does Radhika Dasi mean, right? But then immediately within 24 hours of meeting Gurudev, suddenly I know we all want to become the Palyadasis of Srimati Radhika. This is what we want. It was immediate. It was an immediate samskar that comes from coming in contact with Srimati Radhika's Manjari, Srila Gurudev, the person who we know is one person. The person who we know knows Radharani. We're one person away from Srimati Radharani. And so Gurudev was speaking, and actually before my name was Radhika Leela, but he crossed out the Leela. He said, others can call you this, but I won't call you Radhika Leela. You should be directly the Dasi of Srimati Radhika. No Radhika Leela Dasi. He wanted direct Radhika Dasi. So he gave me that impression for all of that, what is the meaning? Srila Prabhupada gave my mom the name Manjari Dasi, but what is the meaning of Manjari? What is the meaning of to be a Dasi of Srimati Radhika? He was instilling this even in the hearts of very young children. We don't understand anything, but Gurudev was somehow planting this seed within everyone's heart. The first time he ever met my mother, when she walked into the room, he said, she gave him some flowers, and he said, "Oh, you have come. This is her first meeting. You have come." And she gave the flowers, and he said, "But I want to pick your heart like a beautiful lotus flower and offer to Radha and Krishna." She had never heard something so beautiful, that somebody could want this for you. What kind of love? Everybody wants something from everybody for their own benefit. But Gurudev doesn't want anything from us. He wants only, he sees, he looks. And that's why, I would experience that. I don't know if anyone else had this experience of being in front of Gurudev and feeling like, even though we're so impure and there's so many anarthas, when you would stand in front of Gurudev, you would feel your purest self. You would feel your highest self in front of Gurudev, because he's looking at us and he's seeing our Atma, and he is seeing only our Krishna Seva Vasana. He only is seeing what is our potential for our seva to Radha Krishna, nothing else, only this. That's all he's seeing. He looks past everything. And so that was, that reminds me of the next part of the story in New Braj. So now we're there in New Braj, and now it's time for me to get Harinam. So I go in the room, and Srila Gurudev says to me, "Where are you from?" So I said, I'm from San Francisco. And then I said, but I grew up I spent time in Vrindavan, and, my father's Punjabi and my mother is American. So I'm half. I'm half Punjabi, half Jewish, half this, so I'm getting into this whole explanation with Gurudev. And he looks at me again, and he's shaking his head, and he goes, "No, where are you from?" And I was just like, I didn't get it. I just didn't get it, and then he just looks at me and he says, "You should always think I am from Golok Vrindavan. You should always think, where are you from?" Then he asked me again, "I am from Goloka Vrindavan." This was the the seed he was planting, the abhiman. He wanted to plant this abhiman in our hearts, that where am I from? I'm from Goloka Vrindavan. Who am I? I'm a servant in the line of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in the line of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in the line of Srila Rupa Goswami. And just imprinting this identity, this spiritual identity into our hearts, this pure identity. And so he said, you should always think, I am from Goloka Vrindavan. And I always have remembered that, because I always feel displaced in this world, Where is my home? When I come to America, when I'm here, when I'm there, even when I'm in Vrindavan, I'm not really in Vrindavan because I'm full of so much Maya that my mind is here and there. But when I hold on to those words of Gurudev that no, where am I from? Who am I? Gurudev gave this to each and every one of us, and to everyone who's coming into his line. So that was very wonderful. And then he told me, can you chant 4 rounds every day? And I said, 4 rounds? Come on, I can chant 16 rounds. Why are you telling me to chant 4 rounds? So that I was so determined to chant 16 rounds every day so that I could go up to Gurudev and tell him, Gurudev, I chanted 16 rounds today. Like that, and just get that loving interaction with him. And then very, very sweet and loving interaction. And then so many sweet little pastimes were there in New Braj with Srila Gurudev and the devotees. But how amazing it was to see how everywhere that Gurudev went, the whole Vrindavan would just manifest. Like he said, I have made new Badger into Braja. That's what he said. I have made Badger into Braja. And the peacocks and the cows and he said he made an ordinary rock into Giriraj Govardhan. He brought all of the pastimes of Radha Krishna. He brought everything. And nobody knew what to expect when Srila Gurudev came for the first time. Like we often hear, they said, oh, he'll come for a few days and then he'll leave and everything will go back to as it was. But nothing was like that. Srila Gurudev came once, and so many people had come even as spies to spy on Gurudev, and their hearts became melted. And Gurudev gave them so much mercy. He gave so much mercy to my whole family. My grandfather, when he would come, my grandfather Bhagavan, who was a disciple of Srila Prabhupada and who had at one point been a sannyasi. And whenever he would come and see Srila Gurudev, Gurudev would put his uttariya, his cloth on my grandfather and say, oh, you look so beautiful in this color. What are you, like that, and giving so much love and affection and mercy and compassion. And then we went to Salt Spring Island with Gurudev in Canada. And that was a very sweet festival. I remember we did a play and Srila Gurudev was crying in that play. So many times in the drama plays, he would cry. His heart was so soft that, even though we're just like material, mundane people, nothing like the actual scene, but Gurudev was just there. And so even the smallest little attempt would he would allow us to witness his moods. So I remember we did a drama play there of Srimati Radhika. She's burning in separation from Krishna. And I think I was like one of the little Manjaris in the play or something. And then afterwards, when Gurudev was getting ready to leave to go somewhere, he was in his car and he saw me standing in the back. and he undid and rolled down the window, and he went like this with his little finger, and then I came forward, and he said, uh, I want you to sing like your mother. She sings very nice. I want you to sing. He said, can you sing Jai Radha Madhav? So then I stood there next to the window singing Jai Radha Madhava and looking at Gurudev, and he was planting that seed in my heart of, wanting me to absorb in these kirtans and to learn how to sing. Actually, he told me one time that he wants me to become expert in all instruments and become very expert kirtaniya. He said I should learn mridanga. Then he went piano, and Gurudev was so broad-minded. He wanted all of his daughters to be very qualified. He wanted us to be very strong. Another time when I was in Vrindavan, I was thinking of just like quitting school and staying in Vrindavan. And he saw me in the back of the room, and he called me forward, and he said, after Kartik, go back to America and go back to school and finish your education. I started quoting some sloka from Roy Ramananda Samvad. Oh, but Gurudev, education, the highest education is something. The highest education is this, eternal knowledge. And what is this, And he said, will I teach you arithmetic? Like that. I said, no. And he said, you must do. And I said, but why? I want to stay here. I want to be with you. And he said, no, you must do, so that you are never dependent on any man. Don't be dependent on any man. You should be strong, very strong. So he wanted all his daughters to preach very boldly, to be very qualified, and to be ideal. And he gave us so many examples of very, very qualified Vaishnavas. Srila Gurudev, when he came into our lives, for so many of us, he opened the door. Suddenly we hear about Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj. Suddenly this whole ocean of pure devotees who we've never known have come into our life by the association of that one flame that can light all other, illuminate. Sri Guru, he introduced us to the whole family of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And what a magical thing that is, because, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj says, in this world, our success is defined by, how much wealth we have, how much status we have, how much name and fame and acclaim we have in society. But in Goloka Vrindavan, our success is measured by how many guardians, how many spiritual guardians we have. That is the success of life, right? Nanda Baba, Yashoda Maya, Rohini Maya, all the elders of Braj, right? So we are so fortunate that Gurudev, he gave us relationship even if we didn't know these personalities. Every year on their Avirbhav, on their Tirobhav, how he would glorify them and remember them. And he brought them all into our life. Now we have some relationship and connection with all of these Mahapurushas through the mercy of Srila Gurudev. And so, yeah, I remember, especially as a young child, I remember I was just a little girl. I didn't know, they say that first when you meet a guru, then you examine, and then they examine you, and this and that. None of that was there. I was just a little girl, and I just met Gurudev, and I loved him, and I felt he loves me. And then that was that. And it was such a natural connection. And I remember just being so little and looking around and seeing all my friends who were just 9 years old or 10 years old, just crying all the time. Like we were just crying all the time. Gurudev comes, crying, walking, crying all the time. Even I remember being in Harikatha, not understanding what I'm listening and crying. And I'm just thinking, why am I crying right now? You know? Do you remember that, Haripriya? Just like crying all the time, like
Yeah. I was speaking about that in my thing as well. It's just I don't even know why, but just like tears would just come all the time. So totally relate to that.
Yeah, it was so amazing, you know. And Gurudev had this magical way. He would speak some Harikatha, and then he would, you know, everyone would be crying, especially when he would start sweetly speaking about how the gopis are taking their small babies, and instead of putting the bucket in the well to get water, they're putting their babies in the well because they're thinking of Krishna, and they're singing Govinda Damodar Madhaveti, and they're becoming so absorbed that they're, you know, putting the baby in the well. And he would speak about these leelas and how, you know, while the gopis are cleaning and whatever they're doing, how they're always singing Govinda Damodar Madhaveti. And when he would do that, then everyone would be crying. And then he would look at someone and go, oh, why weeping? Why weeping? Even though he was the one making everyone cry in such a sweet way, you know, giving this mood and this feeling. He gave this feeling that anyone can get this Krishna Bhakti Rasa. He made it so visceral and so real that everyone was like, the mood at that time, especially in the, you know, the 90s and the, you know, closer to the earlier days when Gurudev came, the mood was so thick of like, just everyone was just having this feeling of greed, right? It was this greed that Gurudev was putting into our heart that, you know, you don't have to deserve it. You just have to desire it. Krishna Bhakti Ras Bhavitamati. You just have to have this. Greed is the only qualification. And he would always give the example of the man who wants to marry Princess Diana, or the poor man who wants to taste the rasagula, right? So what is it? He just wanted us to have this greed, you know, and everything that he would speak Srimad Bhagavatam, and he would speak everything, but he would always say, if I don't speak on Krishna Lila, if I don't speak from 10th canto, then all is zero. So he wanted so much to instill this mood in our hearts. And then I remember Gurudev was in San Diego in 2001, and he was speaking in that Harikatha, very strong. He gave a famous katha. I think it's called The Very Critical Stage. And he says, I think I won't come anymore here. And it was very heavy. I remember feeling it even as a child. He said, I think I won't come anymore because no one people are not taking what I'm giving. They're not taking it seriously. He wanted us to be serious. He wanted us to mature in bhakti. He wanted everyone to do bhajan, to taste bhajan. You know, he wasn't here to, he was here to end our business in the material world. Chop, chop, chop. That's what Gurudev came for. He said, in this life, I want you to attain, at least he wanted us to attain ruchi. This is so high. You know, I can't even imagine attaining real sadhu sangha. What does it mean to really associate with Vaishnavas? What to speak of ruchi? It's so high. So he came and he was very strong in that class. And then I think maybe I was 11 or something at the time, and he how much time do I have, by the way?
Yeah, you have plenty of time.
Okay.
Like we can go for another hour as well.
Okay. So
And then whenever you want, you can break for a bhajan.
Okay. So we were in San Diego, and we did a play. I did another play that year. I was Krishna in the play, and it was the story when Krishna comes or the Brahmana crosses out the line, and then the marks appear on Krishna's body. So I was Krishna, and I just forgot all my lines in the drama play, and I was just laughing and laughing and laughing. I totally lost character. I couldn't stop laughing on the stage. And Gurudev said in the microphone, "Can somebody please help the girl?" In the microphone. It's so funny and sad. And then later on in the week, it was during Harikatha. He was in the middle of speaking Harikatha. There was some place we had rented there in San Diego, and many devotees were there. And all of a sudden, he says in the microphone, "Where is the daughter of Manjari? Where is the daughter of Manjari? I'm looking for her." So I was there, so you hear me in the recording, and I'm like, "I'm over here, Gurudev." And then he says to me, "Do you want diksha?" I was maybe like 10 or 11. And again, I probably wanted diksha, but probably for the wrong reasons at that age. I probably just wanted diksha because I thought it looked cool. Everyone sitting with their eyes closed, and I wanted to partake. But he said, "Do you want diksha?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "Yes." And then he said, "I heard you wanted diksha." I hadn't told anyone, but Gurudev knew somehow. And then he said, "First, you should be more qualified." He said, "First, you should be more qualified." And then he said, "Come next year, and I'll give you all mantras." So he was very sweet and encouraging. And then I think the next year I came, or the year after that, to New Braj, and I had lost my mala at the Hawaii festival. And when I went up to Gurudev, I was so afraid to go up to Gurudev and ask him for new beads. He was walking. And apparently 2 other people had asked for new malas before I went up to Gurudev. So it wasn't a very good time. So my mother was standing next to me, and I went up to Gurudev with a new pair of beads. And I said, because what happened is I had left my beads in a purse in Hawaii during the Vyasa Puja festival, and someone stole my purse. So my whole purse went missing. It was they did like an anukut. And so I just put it down and was dancing in kirtan, and it just got stolen. So my mother started to explain to him in Hawaii, and he said, "I don't care, Hawaii, Pawai, Manjari, Panjari." And then he started chastising me in Hindi, like, "Tappar marega." And he said, "I will beat you." And he came rushing to me to hit me, and he said, how are you even alive? How are you even standing here without your harinaam? And he pulled out his mala. He said, "I've had these mala for 60 years. He was very angry. He was shouting, like quite shouting at me. And I was crying, and I was like, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, Gurudev," And then I gave him the new pair of beads to touch, and he looked at them, and he just threw them at me. He just held the bead bag, and he threw the beads at me, and he said, "Careless," and he walked away. He was very, very upset. And I was very, very sad, because he said careless, and I realized like he wasn't just talking to me about losing my beads. He was talking to me about my bhakti, right? Why are you being careless with your bhakti and negligent to your harinam? So, carrying my harinam around like it's a toy or like it's a, this or that, but not taking it seriously. So, yeah, he was very heavy about that. And then there was another story where my mother, there was some program. This was still when I was pretty young, and I wanted to sing a song at this. I was trying to figure out what to sing at some program. And so my mother said to me, "Why don't you sing Harinama Tua?" So I was like, I don't want to sing that song. I was just like a kid, and I was like, no, I don't like that song. I don't want to sing that song. I said something like that to her. Like I was fighting with her. She tells me to do something and I don't want to do it. So I was like, I don't want to sing that song. So she was like, oh, don't say that, this is such a beautiful song, beautiful kirtan. About a few weeks later, I happened to write to Gurudev. I used to always have a habit of writing to Gurudev. So I wrote to him, and he sent me a letter back saying, every day you should sing Harinama Tua Aneka Swarupa. Just a few weeks after that thing had happened, he said, you should pray to this song and you should sing this song every day. Especially while you're chanting, you should remember the meaning, who is Harinam Prabhu, and pray. And I used to sometimes have these sweet interactions with Srila Gurudev around singing. Whenever I would ask him to sing, he would always say, I would always want to sing Gurudev Kripa Bindudiya or, some Vaishnava song. And whenever I would ask him to sing, he would say, sing the highest song of Srimati Radhika, like Varaja Vipine, Ramani Shiromani, these Vrishabhanu Sutta. He always wanted to hear these songs. And again, he wanted to give us that impression in our hearts of singing, Dekite, Dekite, like the kind of songs that Srila Gurudev wanted us to sing, the moods he wanted to put inside of our hearts, that when will I be born in Braj? When will I, attain my spiritual roop, my identity as a Palyadasi of Srimati Radhika? So he would always ask my friend Janava to sing this song Varaja Vipine about when Radharani leaves Rasalila and Krishna is saying, without you, what am I doing in Braj? Without you are making me a Brajabasi. Because of you, I am a Brajabasi. And Gurudev would always relish these kirtans so much. He would relish hearing the songs of Jayadev Goswami from Gita Govinda, Shrita Kamala Kuchamandalai. He would hear these kirtans and he would weep, and everybody would cry, everybody would weep, and he was giving us entrance into the moods of his heart, because when Gurudev would close his eyes, it was like he would just disappear, and then when he would open his eyes, he would just come back. And so I remember one time I was sitting in the airport by his feet, and I said to him, Gurudev, I don't have any taste for chanting Harinam. I try to chant, and immediately when I start chanting, then I fall asleep. I don't know what to do about this. And Gurudev was laughing. He started chuckling. He said, and he looked so surprised. He said, "You sleep? You fall asleep, you know?" And then he told me the story of Sanatan Goswami and the Chintamani stone and how precious Harinam is. And then he said, "If I kept $1 billion for you in one treasure chest and I kept it in Badger, then would you sleep or would you go and take that treasure?" So I said, "No, surely I would definitely go." And he said, "So you're thinking that this Harinam is not like money. You're not looking at it like you're thinking it's a cheap thing." And he said, when you realize that these names are everything, they have everything, they can give you everything. When you realize this, then you will be able to do like me. And he closed his eyes and sat up really straight, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare, chanting one mantra. And when he did that, closed his eyes, and it was like immediately, okay, now Gurudev is gone. Where is he? In which kunja is he? And where has he gone? And where is his heart? And then immediately he opens his eyes and, comes back to earth. And he said, then you will be able to do like me, right? So he wanted us to taste, to have this taste for Harinam. He wanted us to chant 64 rounds. This was his, he didn't restrict. He gave Harinam to everyone. Sometimes people say, why did your Gurudev give Harinam so easily here and there? People are chanting, only a few rounds, but in ISKCON you have to chant 16 rounds. I said, no, Gurudev wants everyone to chant 64 rounds. This is Gurudev's standard. Not that we're following now necessarily, but it's a seed, and Gurudev has planted the seed, and by his mercy surely it will grow, and it's only a matter of time. And he can see that it's just a matter of time. So so much endless sweet katha of Gurudev, not only my stories, but also just just when you hear even people who had one exchange with Srila Gurudev or two exchanges with Gurudev, but how it affected their whole life, or how, their whole lives were changed by Srila Gurudev's loving presence and mercy. My friend from high school, her name was Caitlin, and she was a Christian, and I ended up telling her about Srila Gurudev, and she wrote a letter to him, and he wrote back such a loving, sweet letter, so personal and so sweet, the way he cared about each and every person. He didn't care what is their family, what is their background, who is their guru, which mutt do they come from. He had arms open for everyone, and he saw everyone as being one family. So I wanted to share about my diksha in 2015. I took Gopal Mantra earlier, and then I waited for a little bit before I got diksha.
2005. I think, right?
Sorry, 2005.
Yeah. I can share whenever you say. I'll share the video.
Okay. So I was 14 at the time, not that I was 14 or 15. So it was the year that the Dham Parikrama was still, underneath the moon. The temple mat hadn't been built yet, so all of the pillars were there, the bamboo pillars, and the land had been bought, but the mandir was not constructed. And so there was a big, huge storm that happened that year. And my mother was actually like in the pandal, like when it collapsed, like it like literally like collapsed on her. Like she had to hold up the bamboo with her feet. It was so crazy. But it was such a magical parikrama that year. I mean, I can never forget that Navadvipa parikrama, how on Gaur Purnim, we were just outside with Gurudev underneath the moon, the golden, bright, shining moon, and Gurudev is there and dancing. And he said, anyone who has attended this Navadvipa parikrama, he said, they will get a very special benediction. Anyone who has attended, even if the whole time they were sleeping, he said, still, just by coming here during this time, he said, whole life they are Gaur Nityananda Prabhu's responsibility, and whole life they are my responsibility. So he gave such benedictions that year. And so it was time for, I went up to Gurudev and I asked him for diksha. I missed the Westerners' date, so I had to go in with all of the Bengalis. If you like, you can show that little clip.
Diksha, you want diksha? Can you maintain? Oh my mercy, but if you read strong, after register name, Vijay Krishna Prabhu, you should go and register your name. So you,
also, I asked for money with harinaam.
Yes. So you and your grandfather, it's called main conspiracy, but both of you will take some time.
Okay, so so I asked Srila Gurudev for diksha, and of course he said, can you be strong? Can you be, And I've definitely, remembered that throughout like my time, whenever I've been struggling or whenever I'm having difficulty, that helps to bring me back. So my mother helped me prepare this beautiful plate, right? But it wasn't an ordinary plate, because my mom is an artist and she goes all out. So it was like, really rare kinds of flowers and fruits and just like a huge thali. And I was fighting with her so much because she prepared a whole plate with incense and ghee lamp and chandan and a garland and all of this stuff. And she rehearsed it, the whole thing with me. And I was like, I was shy. I didn't want to be different than everyone else. So she said, when you go in, you're going to do full arti. This is your chance to do full Guru Puja, full arti for Srila Gurudev. So you're going to go in and you're first going to offer incense. Then you're going to offer the ghee lamp. Then you're going to put the chandan. Then you're going to put the mala. And I was like, no, it's too much. I didn't want to do it. And I had a big fight with her. But then finally I did it. So I went in, I took the chandan and put it on Gurudev's head. And I did it for so long that eventually he went like this, because I was just going like this with the chandan. And I put the garland on him and I offered incense and I offered ghee lamp and I did a whole thing. And at the end, he was so pleased. He said to everyone, you see how she's doing? You should do like this. He was very happy with that, and very loving and encouraging. And he kind of held my hand and showed me how to demonstrated on my hand how to do all the mantras. And then he comes close, he's looking, I'm sitting right there by his feet. I was like the annoying child that would always be like, pushing through everyone and going and sitting like right there and wanting to, even, if he was ignoring me somehow, I would try to ask a question or try to say or do anything, say or do anything to get one word or something from Gurudev. So he looks at me and he said to me, "Oh, I have so many relationships with you." It was so sweet. He said, "I have so many relationships with you." But the way he was speaking was just like a gopi, like his face, his eyebrows, his moods, like there was so much more being said than just the words that were coming. It was his mood and his sweetness. He said, "I have so many relationships with you." And then he said, "First, you are directly my dear darling daughter," like that. And then he said, "And you are my granddaughter." And he said, "And many more, like many more relationships," So just thinking of that, how much that's true in my life when I feel who is my protector, who is my guardian, who is my angel, who is my mother, who is my father, who is my friend, who is my grandfather. Gurudev is all of those relationships and more that we can't even imagine. What is our relationship with Gurudev eternally? What is our soul relationship with Gurudev? What is our relationship with Gurudev in service to Radha and Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? So deep, so many things. And that's what Gurudev was saying, because he's giving Guru Mantra and he's giving Guru Gayatri. And, it's all there in Guru Mantra and Guru Gayatri. Who is Gurudev and who are we? And Gurudev is Guru Sakhi, and he wanted us to meditate on that, on our Gurudev as being a very near and dear maidservant of Srimati Radhika. So that was a really, really beautiful experience having diksha. And I also said to Gurudev in that same thing, "Gurudev, we both have the same birthday," because Gurudev also got diksha on Gurpurnim from his Gurudev. So I said, we have the same birthday, like that. So another time, this is a sweet remembrance I have from Kartik. It might have been the year I met you, Haripriya, or I can't remember actually, but it was one year during Kartik. Gurudev was in Govardhan, and it was, I believe it was Deepavali day, and the sun was rising. You remember when Gurudev would sit on the Vyasasan there in Govardhan Mat, and the early morning, the crisp feet, the crisp air, and the sun rising behind Srila Gurudev through the windows, and everyone is getting ready to go on parikrama. And so many times I took it for granted, the program would be starting, I would be late, or I would be sleeping, or I would be, just running here and there. But those moments, the feeling of that Govardhan air and sitting there with Gurudev, and you can hear his voice in the microphone singing Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam, Namami Nandanandanam, Krishna Deva Bhavantam Bande, Radhe Jai Jai Madhava Daite, all these songs, you can hear it. So this one particular day, I could hear him in the microphone. He was singing the whole Govardhanastakam, the whole Nija Nikata Nivasam Dehi Govardhanatvam. He sang the whole thing. And Madhav Maharaj was also trying to sing it in the microphone, for Gurudev's. But Gurudev kept going. He sang the entire thing, and he hadn't sung so much in many, I hadn't heard him singing so much in those years. but it was so beautiful. It was it was hauntingly beautiful. I can never forget the sound of Gurudev's voice singing that ashtakam like mantras. Every time Gurudev recites these mantras, we think we have only our diksha mantras, but we have so many mantras that Gurudev has planted in our hearts. So then he said, if you go to Giriraj Govardhan, he can give you anything you pray for. If you pray for any mundane material thing, a house, this, that, Giriraj will very easily give you. If you pray for Guru Nishta, Guru Bhakti, he can give you. If you pray for Dham Vas, he can give you. If you pray for Krishna Bhakti, he can give you. If you pray for Radha Dasyam, then he'll say, okay, let me think for a day or two and then I'll tell you. So Gurudev was saying how Girirajji can give everything. So he said, now I want to tell you that you all should go today to Giriraj. Maybe we were doing parikrama or what, I don't know, but it wasn't Anukut. And he said, you should go to Giriraj and you should ask for one benediction and see how is that. You can ask him for anything. He'll give you anything that you want. But be careful to pray for the right thing. Don't pray for the wrong thing. So of course, being, I didn't go to Giriraj Govardhan and pray for Radha Dasyam or anything like that. I was just, a kid. So I prayed for whatever I could find in my heart that was sincere at the time. So I wrote this little letter in my diary, what I wanted. And then I went to Giriraj and I sang Govardhan Ashtakam and I offered incense and everything. And I prayed to Giriraj. I actually prayed because that Kartik Gurudev was ignoring me completely. So every time he would walk and I would go and stand right in front of him and he would talk to the person on my left and talk to the person on my right. And he would completely skip me and ignore me. And then the next time I would go in front of his door, practically standing in front of his door, and he would ignore me. And he kept ignoring me like this. So I was getting very sad. So I prayed to Giriraj Govardhan, please, and this hadn't happened, I hadn't sang for Gurudev in a couple of years, actually. It had been some time since I had sung for Gurudev. So I prayed to Giriraj, please, I just want to sing for Gurudev, because that was when I would feel the most connected to him. So I said, please, I want to pray to Guru. I want to sing for Srila Gurudev. So I really prayed, and I didn't tell anyone that I had prayed for that. It was a very conscious, decision to pray for that thing. And then later when I was in the mutt, Gurudev, he saw me and he was walking back to his room. He had gone on a walk and he called me over and he said, oh, I heard that you want to sing for me. And I was just like, what? I was like, I looked at him and I was like, you heard? What do you mean you heard? You heard? And he was like, I heard that you want to sing for me. He didn't tell me, oh, sing for me. He said, I heard that you want to sing for me. Like that. Okay, you should be ready. Like that. So he told me you should be ready.
Wow.
I think I sang Dekite Dekite that year. But I thought that was so sweet, just how Gurudev, he's so connected to Giriraj Govardhan. He's so connected. They communicate. And I thought, oh, they're all communicating, When we pray to Tulsi Devi, she communicates with Gurudev. Gurudev communicates with, they're all like a little net, they all talk to each other. They have relationship. And like Gurudev said, you can pray to anyone who can help you. So, and that's the most amazing thing about having the Jagannath deities here, is that when I'm looking at Jagannath, I'm actually seeing them as like an extension of Gurudev's love, because Gurudev installed them. They're from his mat. They were there when he entered Nitya Leela. And so I'm like, I look at Jagannath, but they make me miss Gurudev and the Vaishnavas, and this is the way of transcendental personalities, is that they just open the heart. They make the heart expand, and they give us a relationship with everyone, with Tulsi Devi, Purnamasi Devi, Yamuna Devi, Giriraj Govardhan. Gurudev wanted us to have relationship with all these personalities, right? And he wanted us to be in the right mood. He would say, if we're going to all these places, Gurudev would go. I can't imagine that Gurudev would go to these places and sit in the dust. You can see these old Braj Mandal Parikrama recordings of Gurudev sitting in the dust, and someone is singing Choti Si Kishori or singing a Braj Kirtan and laughing, and everybody's laughing and joking and in a mood. And Gurudev is hearing Choti Si Kishori, and he's just weeping and crying in the dust, in the dust of Braj. What a samskar to have of that, of just sitting in the dust with Gurudev, being on Braj Mandal Parikrama. I remember one time, I think it was at Prem Sarovar or Mansarovar, Gurudev was sitting there on this platform, and he was having kheer and malpua and water chestnuts, and he was taking the kheer in the malpua. I don't know how where was Madhav Maharaj, or how it was happening that Gurudev was taking malpua, but he was having this malpua and just taking like this and throwing it in his mouth, like so expertly, without just like throwing, right? And he looked so sweet, just like a sakha, like he just had this jovial kind of like sweet mood, and he had a smile on his face, and he was taking Mahaprasad, and he had his eyes closed, and somehow I was sitting in the line kind of close to where Gurudev was sitting, and he looked down at me and was like, he said in Hindi first, like, bahut acha hai na? Like, he was like, it's so good, right? And then he said, very tasty, very tasty. And he was taking with so much love and affection for Mahaprasad, and how he would go to these places and he would instill within our hearts what mood we should have when we go to these places, not just going like tourists and taking photos and seeing with our eyes, but going with a mood of separation from Krishna. He said, if you're going to all these places, but no separation mood for Krishna is coming into your heart, then all is in vain, totally in vain. So you would say, try for 1 month when you come for Kartik, try to give up all of your desires for 1 month. Just try to come with me to Vrindavan and try to be here and observe the mood. What was the mood of the Goswamis? And he wanted to give us that mood. He said, somebody asked him, what should I pray for in Vrindavan when I'm here? What is the one thing? If there was one thing I should pray for, what is that prayer? So he said, every time, whenever you touch your head to a tree, whenever you touch your head to the dust, wherever you go, you should pray, Vishaya Chadiya Kabe Shuddha Beman Kabe Hamaher Shri Vrindavan. When will my mind become pure? When will this taste for material enjoyment go away? And when will I be able to behold Shri Vrindavan Dham? So he wanted us to have all of these moods. He wanted us to be very humble and very sweet and never criticized any Vaishnavas. And he just taught us this mood again and again and again in every class. Almost every single class we would hear, don't criticize any Vaishnav, don't quarrel, be very humble. Even if someone is passing urine on your head, be very humble. Like the mood that Gurudev was instilling was so thick, and it's because he genuinely wanted us to get bhakti very quickly in this life. So hopping around back to,
Can we show the video of you singing for Gurudev?
yeah, can we do it when I tell the story
Yeah, of course.
of that? I'll tell the story of that soon. So actually, yeah, I'll tell the story of that now. So Srila Gurudev, it's hard. There's so many things I'm trying. I don't want to leave out anything. Okay, so when Gurudev was in Badger the last year, 2010, he started from the very first day, the very first class. He said, I won't come back to New Braj. And all the devotees were devastated. And from the very first moment of the festival to the last moment of the festival, everyone was crying all day, all night, every day. It was like he started this thing that I won't come back to New Braj. This is my last year. And it was very scary because Gurudev had said that he'll never stop coming to New Braj. He'll always come to New Braj. So it was very shocking. And from the first Harikatha, he started speaking about how is Krishna Satya Sankalpa? Krishna left Vrindavan, he went to Mathura, and he never returned. And this was the topic. Most years he would do Prahlad Charita, Roy Ramananda Sambad, Guru Tattva. But this year, right from day one, he was speaking this Harikatha, that Krishna left Vrindavan and he never returned. This is like so heavy. And at the same time, Gurudev was saying that he would not return. So it was such a mood of separation. And I remember Gurudev said, so Gurudev asked me to sing, and the first time I sang Tuhu Sero Hila Madhupur, this song about separation and what's happening in Braj when Krishna leaves. So towards the end of the festival, he asked me to sing again, and I started to sing the same song because I thought this is exactly what he's speaking about. And he stopped me and he said, no, not this, sing Oh Maniro Lagena. So he wanted this kirtan. I had never sung it before, but he wanted this kirtan, and it's a Braj kirtan. And he said all the gopis would sing in a very pathetic way, Gurudev would say, very pathetically, with so much separation in their hearts, they would sing this song. So you can play that for a moment.
Do you suggest we just play just for about
10 seconds.
Okay, we'll do 30 seconds, and then I'd like to request you to sing that bhajan for everyone. Pleasure.
Okay. No sound.
You can't hear it?
No
No.
sound.
Oh, wow.
I think when you share, there's an option to share sound also. You have to tick that. Just below the video, you'll see an option to share sound and optimize for video.
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to see. That's weird because the other video I shared, the sound was there. Sorry, Prabhu. I don't understand where exactly. Let me just stop sharing for a second and then.
Maybe do it the same way you did for last video.
That's what I just did. Share screen, and then let's go to the desktop, and then where were we? Chrome.
Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yes. Good.
No.
No,
Oh.
it's there.
Okay, let's go back. Okay. I'm going to share the words for this beautiful bhajan, and then we will hear this live from Radhika. Okay. Is that visible?
Mm-hmm. There's a few more little pastimes I wanted to share. Should I do it after I sing?
As you like.
Okay. Maybe I'll sing and then I'll share the last few. Manero lage na sakiri mero sham bina manero lage na oh manero lage na sakiri mero sham bina manero lage na Shama bina re ghan Shama bina maniro lagena oh maniro lagena sakhiri mero Shama bina maniro lagena suni suni lage sari की नगरी सुनी सुनी लागे सारी ब्रज की नगरी कुंज गली सुनी श्याम बिना मनिरो लागे ना ओ मनिरो लागे ना सखी रे मेरो श्याम बिना मनिरो लागे ना मौन सुन बाल सब तरफ रहे, तृण नहीं तोरे गोवे श्याम बिना मनिर लागे ना, ओ मनिर लागे ना सखी रे मेरो, श्याम बिना मनिर लागे ना। ओ पनिया भरन जब जाओ यमुना पे, पनिया भरन जब जाओ यमुना पे, पन घट सुनो लागे श्याम बिना मनिरो लागे ना, ओ मनिरो लागे ना सखी रे मेरो, श्याम बिना मनिरो लागे ना, ओ मनिरो लागे ना सखी रे मेरो, श्याम बिना मनिरो लागे ना। गिरिधरी मोसे लुथरे सावरिया, गिरिधरी मोसे लुथरे सावरिया, चेनाया में तेरे, चेना में तेरे दर्शन, श्याम बिना मनिरो लागे ना, ओ मनिरो लागे ना सखी रे मेरो, श्याम बिना मनिरो लागे ना, ओ मनिरो लागे ना सखी रे मेरो, श्याम बिना मनिरो लागे ना, श्याम बिना मनिरो, श्याम बिना मनिरो लागे ना, ओ मनिरो लागे ना सखी रे मेरो, श्याम बिना मनिरो लागे ना। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, जय राधे जय कृष्णा, जय राधे जय कृष्णा, जय जय गुरुदेव, 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 जय जय गुरुदेव, हरि बोल हरि बोल, हरि बोल निताई गौर, हरि बोल निताई गौर, हरि बोल हरि बोल, हरि बोल हरि बोल। गुरुदेव की
Jai. That was so beautiful, Radhika. So heartfelt, touching, sincere, full of bhav. And I think I can speak for everyone when I say that it just took us back to Srila Gurudev and his moods. So I request you to please continue. I know you have so many more pastimes and memories.
More, yeah, so this just reminds me of what I was saying just before this, which is that Gurudev, he wanted to give us this separation mood, everywhere we went. He wanted that every place that we go, every tree that we see, like when we would go to Vamshivat near Pandirvan, and Gurudev would talk about how is it Sridham or Subal who's there and who is waiting for 5,000 years till Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. He was crying in separation. So Gurudev was saying that wherever we go, we must feel this separation mood for Krishna. And we could experience practically with Srila Gurudev how, when Gurudev would come, it was like rain in a desert, and he would come and everybody's hearts, it was like the most exciting, the most joy that you would feel in those moments prior to Gurudev's arrival, in anticipation. I remember in New Braj when Gurudev would come, it was like thinking every car that would come, we would think, oh, is that Gurudev's car? And we would run down the pathway and no shoes on and stones are there, but we would run down the pathway and greet Srila Gurudev. And it was like so much anxiousness to see him. And, first we have to experience this meeting and this separation with Guru. Otherwise, how will we know what that is for Krishna, right? For Thakurji. And so even Gurudev's disappearance Leela, he says that Shri Guru, he appears, he disappears so that all of our anarthas will burn away in that fire of separation from him. So this last year in New Braj, he was speaking, how is it that Krishna is Satya Sankalpa? And how is it that he never came back to Vrindavan? And so he was talking about how the gopis, how they never went back to their homes, how they would weep, they cried and they wept in the forest of Vrindavan, and all of the pots were gathering cobwebs, and all of the, and Gurudev, when he speaks this Harikatha, like I remember one of my friends was sharing with me, helping me to understand some of Gurudev's Hindi Harikatha, where he was speaking about when Krishna is in Mathura and Srimati Radhika is experiencing so much separation, and she's on the verge of leaving her body. And Gurudev says at that time, she took shelter of something. And what is that thing that she took shelter of? Gurudev said, her man was like an island, and she took shelter of her man, and this literally kept her alive, right? When she's chastising the bumblebee as Madhusudan, he said, at no other point has someone taken shelter of man in separation, but Srimati Radhika is feeling so much separation. And so Gurudev, he would give us all of these leelas because he wanted to instill with us this mood of separation from Krishna, from the gopis, because only in this separation can there be meeting. And what an extraordinary thing that even though we have no qualification, truly, and for so long, Gurudev, none of these truths have been presented to us, being Westerners, being, having so many anarthas. And Gurudev, he gave us things like Gita Govinda, he published these books because he wanted these moods, the moods of the Goswamis, to be preserved and to be protected. And not that we jump, but that they're there and they're truths that are waiting to be realized by his mercy, because he's instilled that identity in all of our hearts. He would ask even the young children, he would say, you know, what do you want? What is your goal? Is your goal to be a cowherd boy? Is your goal to be this? No. Even a 5-year-old would know by Gurudev's mercy that no, my goal is to be a Palyadasi of Srimati Radhika. Who can say this, you know? What Gurudev gave to us, this wealth. And what's there, we have yet to taste. At least I have yet to taste. But Gurudev wants us to taste that thing. That's his genuine desire. He would say, I don't want anything from you. Bring your heart to me. I want only your heart. And I want to offer your heart to Radha and Krishna. Nothing else. Nothing else. So in that mood of separation that Gurudev was having in New Braj, after New Braj, he actually came to my grandparents' house, and it was the last place that he stayed in America. He was there for almost 3 weeks at my grandparents' house in Ojai, and he was resting there, and he would sunbathe out in the sun on the swing. And I remember every day he would come down, and it was such an amazing time, such a magical time. Gurudev would go for morning walk, and I would go into his room and clean his room. And I remember seeing his Bhagavatam there, and it would be open to different verses. And I used to love to look which verse is Gurudev reading now? You know, where is his mood and his heart? And those slokas would be marked with chandan and with tulasi and flowers, and probably Gurudev's tears. You know, the pages were just so old and like breaking, like so fragile and just so, you know, used. And so in this way, Srila Gurudev was always absorbed in Srimad Bhagavatam. And the last thing he said in Los Angeles, his last instruction, he had everyone get up and speak and glorify Srimad Bhagavatam. He wanted to hear the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he said, read Bhagavatam, speak Bhagavatam, and become Bhagavat. This is what I want for all of you. These were his last words ever spoken in Harikatha in the US, in public Harikatha. Read Bhagavatam, speak Bhagavatam, and become Bhagavat. So I think I recited a verse for him when he was at my grandparents' house. Maybe Nasta Prayeshu Abhabhadreshu, this sloka. And then Gurudev started talking to me, and he said, do you know what is the best sloka of Bhagavatam? I was frozen. He said, oh, she doesn't know. He was laughing. He said, Jayati Janani Vaso Devaki Janmavado Yaduvara Parisatsvir Dorbirasyam Dharmam Stiti Dhanam Vardayan Kamadevam. This sloka, he said, Gurudev said, this is the best sloka of Srimad Bhagavatam, that Krishna is the son of Devaki, or Devaki only by theory, but actually he's the son of Yashoda Maya, and how he's enchanting the hearts of all the Braja Gopis with his strong arms. And Gurudev was describing this verse, and I asked, when Gurudev would come down every day, he would always ask people, do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? And nobody was really asking many questions. And that would make Gurudev look very sad. When nobody had any questions to ask, you could kind of see that Gurudev's face would, you know, he was having a a ventilator at that time and having some difficulty in breathing, and at least externally. His doctor was there visiting. So one day I finally was like, okay, now I have to ask Gurudev a question. The next time he says, do you have any questions? I have to have questions ready. So I said to Gurudev, I was meditating on his Harikatha from New Braj. So I said to Gurudev, the gopis, if the gopis have so much separation from Krishna, Mathura is very near. Why didn't they just go to Mathura and take him and bring him back to Braj? Right? Why all of this separation? It's so unnecessary. They're so nearby. Mathura's not so far. They could have gone and brought him by force. And then Gurudev just went into this mood, like this gopi mood, Brajabasi mood. And he said, why they did not do? I don't know. They should have done. Why they didn't do? They should have brought Krishna. Why they didn't bring Krishna? He went into this mood of like, yes, they should have done. Why didn't they, I expected him to give some philosophical answer, but he just had this mood of, yeah, I agree. Like, we should have just gone and brought Krishna from there, And I just thought, gosh, what a Brajabasi Gurudev is, his moods, he everything he's giving is mood, and then he said, they did not do. And he said, now you must do. You have to go and bring Krishna from Vrindavan. And I thought of, the Rath Yatra festival then, and then how Gurudev left in Puri, and how deeply significant that is, that Srila Gurudev, his disappearance place is in Puri. And that mood of like, what is our entire initiative as Rupanuga Gaudiya Vaishnavas? We have only one desire, and that's to bring Radha and Krishna together, to see their union. This is our life and soul, to bring Lord Jagannath back to Vrindavan, to unite him with the Braja Gopis and the Brajabasis. And so Gurudev was instilling that in my heart when he said, you must do. He meant that, I must cultivate this mood of the Manjaris. This is what he wants, of uniting Radha and Krishna. And so it's been such a beautiful thing the last few years, to be in Orissa and to spend time there in Gurudev's Puri Mat, in his room, and also in Navadvipa Dham, where he eternally resides. The Samadhi Stali is like a Rasa Stali. Srila Gurudev is present there in his Shri Vigraha form, and therefore all of his associates are also present there. Radha and Krishna are also present there. And all of the deep moods, that he must have been relishing on the banks of the ocean by Chakratirtha and Jagannath Dham, even though his heart is always there in Govardhan, that separation mood that he was relishing in New Braj and also there, he wants to give us that mood, and it's very deep. And and so very mercifully, these Jagannath Didis, Jagannath Baladev, Subhadra, Sudarshan have come here to my home, and they were with Srila Gurudev when he was there in 2010. They were the Didis that were there, and during Navakalebar, they got new Jagannath Didis, and these Didis were supposed to originally go in Srila Gurudev's Samadhi. But for some reason that I can't possibly understand why they're choosing to be here in this moment. But the Lord is very merciful, and seeing them reminds me of Gurudev. And so I feel very, very fortunate that they're here giving me the opportunity to serve them. And I have no qualification. I'm not a real disciple. I remember Gurudev said one time in Hawaii, he kept asking my mother to come to his room. He wanted to see her, and he kept calling for her, and she was going through a very difficult time at the time, so she was hiding. So he kept coming every day up to me saying, call your mother, bring her, bring her. So she wasn't listening, and finally, like, she wasn't coming, and finally he got very angry, and he got very upset, and he said, I'm calling her again and again, go and bring her immediately, why is she not obeying me? Come immediately. So we ended up going, and we were in the room with Srila Gurudev, and he said that he wanted her to sing Jai Radha Madhava, and she said, how can I sing when I have so many unwanted things in my heart? And like, she just felt like, how can I even sing for you? And then Gurudev said, I know better than you what you can and cannot do. And then she was getting ready to leave the room, and I went up to Gurudev, and it was his Vyasa Puja. And I said something to him about, like, what can I offer you today? What can I give you today? And he said, you should become pure devotee. That's what he said. You should become a pure devotee, and you should always be very loyal to me and always follow my instructions. So this is the real meaning of Vyasa Puja, right? That we offer our life to Srila Gurudev, our heart. We always think of what will please him, just like the Brajavasis always think about Krishna's happiness. That's the definition of bhakti, to always think about Krishna's benefit, Krishna's happiness. And so in the same way, our true happiness can come from making Gurudev happy. Really, the happiest moments of my life have been when I've seen Gurudev happy. And it doesn't take much to make him happy. He's very easily pleased. I remember one time I went on book distribution and I made $1. And I went up to Gurudev and gave him $1. And Gurudev said, you distributed my books? Very good. He took that $1 as if it's $1 million, as if some wealthy person was coming and giving that. That was how Gurudev received it, even though it was so small. And so it doesn't take that much to make Gurudev happy. In this world, you try so hard to satisfy people, to please people, and they're always displeased, they're always disappointed, they're always upset with you. And you try so hard to keep your relationships good and everything, but the nature of this world is disappointing, and nobody has that selfless, unconditional love. Even our family, they love us because we're their family, we're their blood. But Gurudev, there's nothing external that he's looking at. He loves us because of our Krishna seva vasana in our souls and what our potential is to serve Radha and Krishna. So in that way, he's trying to give us this mood, and very, 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 very deep, beautiful things. The last thing I want to share is something that I read in an article that was written a long time ago by Vishaka Didi. She was writing about this one time when Gurudev said to her, you should make a sankalpa. It was before Kartik. He said, you should make a sankalpa And any place you go in Vrindavan, whenever you touch your head to any tree or the dust, you should remember this sankalpa like your lifeline. And it should be very simple, like one line, simple. So she made a sankalpa that everything she would do during that Kartik, she wanted every action to bring her closer to Srila Gurudev, so that she never felt any distance from him, that it wouldn't matter where she was in the world, that he's always present with her. So every time she would touch her head to the dust or to a tree or anywhere, she would remember this sankalpa. And at the end of the month, Gurudev said, you will come to me and then we will discuss what was your sankalpa. So she came to Gurudev and he said, what was your sankalpa? And she shared what her sankalpa was. And then Gurudev said, now I will teach you. Now begins your first lesson in how to do bhajan in separation from Guru. And he started to teach her and he said, the very first lesson in how to do bhajan in separation from Gurudev is to realize in the core of your heart, to actually believe in the core of your heart that my Gurudev loves me very, very much and he will never ever leave me. Because if you don't have that faith that Gurudev loves you and he will never leave you, then you won't be able to pray to him or speak to him in an intimate way without any distance. Suppose I know Gurudev loves me, or Jagannath loves me, or Thakurji loves me, and they'll never leave me. Then only can I start to say, Gurudev, this is what, to recognize his presence everywhere in my life and to interact. Otherwise, I will just feel alone, and I'll just feel that Gurudev is very far and he's left me. So she said that at that moment, she had to make a choice. There was only two pathways. One was to have faith, and the other was to not have faith, that Gurudev loves me very much and he'll always leave me. And she couldn't understand, how could Gurudev possibly love me, right? How could Gurudev love me? What is there lovable in me? He loves Radha and Krishna. He doesn't love me, right? But we have to believe that Gurudev loves us. Otherwise, how can we come close to him? So that is the first. And the second lesson was that harinaam is that umbilical cord that is connecting us always to Sri Guru. Harinaam is literally like an umbilical cord, just like a mother is connected to their child through the umbilical cord. So in the same way, we are connected to Gurudev through the harinaam that he has given us. He has given us harinaam, and it is our harinaam from Gurudev, his gift to us, that connects us to him. And so he said, so then someone was in the room and they said, but Gurudev, when I chant and I'm close to you, then I feel connected to you. But when I'm in England or I'm here or I'm there, it's very difficult to chant. It's very difficult to feel connected to you in my chanting. So Gurudev said, when you're separated from Sri Guru, it's just like when a baby is in the womb of the mother. Though they are so close, you should think that when you're in separation, you're so close, just like a baby is inside the womb of the mother, but the baby cannot see the mother. You're so close to Gurudev that you can't even see him with these eyes. That's how close, like we always hear, I'm closer to you than the air that you breathe. So you're so close that you cannot even see with these eyes. In the same way, just like a baby is connected. And then he said, and you're now, like he said, when I'm away from you, Gurudev, then my mind is running here and there and I don't feel connected to you. And then Gurudev said, he ordered everyone to take, there was like 5-6 people in the room, and he ordered everyone to take out their harinaam. And he said, let us chant one round together. And they sat chanting, and Gurudev was looking in each of their eyes. He wasn't not closing his eyes, but looking in everyone's eyes and chanting one whole round out loud, loudly with Gurudev. He said, if you are sitting with me and I am sitting with you, and we are sitting heart in heart and looking at each other, then where can your mind go? Where can your mind wander? Nowhere. So you should sit like this and you should be with me. And Gurudev said, and when you do this, he said, when you sit with Guru like this, in this mood, chanting, then Gurudev will also appear to you during the time of Harinam, and he will begin to give you instructions in bhajan. This will happen. So this should be our goal, like to go deeper and deeper. I mean, I'm struggling all the time just to do basic things. I'm ashamed how much I'm struggling. But this is still the goal in my heart, in all of our hearts, that Gurudev should appear to us in this life. When we're chanting Harinam, when we're chanting Gayatri, our relationship with him should be so strong that he will appear. He'll have to appear and give us instructions and talk to us and interact with us in this sweet way, that there will be meeting in separation, that we'll get to experience that, like Gurudev always spoke to us about, that we can actually experience what is the Bhaktivallabh Tirtha Maharaj said once to one of his disciples. He was worshipping the paduka of his Gurudev, and he looked up at that disciple and he said, the only happiness in this material world is in separation from Guru. This is the only happiness. We can't understand. To me, it's inconceivable. But I'm going to end here. I think I've shared everything that I could remember, and I'm so grateful to Ajay Prabhu and Haripriya Didi for giving me the opportunity to glorify Srila Gurudev, remember him, and thus make my day successful and my life successful by remembering Gurudev. I feel that when there's 2 people or 3 people or 10 people gathered together remembering Srila Gurudev, then I feel he's really present there and he's listening, and so just praying for his mercy and for the mercy of all the Vaishnavas, that somehow, some way I can make Gurudev happy in this life in some way, and always have the association of Rasik Vaishnavas and not just follow my pagal crazy mind, and somehow stay in their line and in their kripa drishti, merciful sidelong glance of Gurudev and Rasik Vaishnavas. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyo patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Hare Krishna. I'll show some pictures of Radhika's with Gurudev, and after that I just have a few notes, and then we'll hear from Ajay Krishna Prabhu.
We can take darshan of Thakurji also.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do that first.
They're very special and they're very hungry all the time. So if everybody wants to make Manasi Seva offerings to them, I'm sure they'll accept. Okay.
Jai.
There's Sudarshan.
So beautiful and so simple.
Yeah.
Like,
Premananda Prabhu told me that, Jagannath wears cotton and silk, very simple cotton, like cowherd boys,
So beautiful.
They're just playing in the forest and no need for all of this jewels, and they just
Yeah.
need some bread and some nice, but there's not so many flowers here in America. In Navadvipa, they were having champak and, mali flowers every day and beautiful fragrant flowers here. I don't
We're
know
gonna
why
hold
they
our
came.
minds.
I don't know why you came here, Jagannath. I don't understand why you came. There he was having good raskula every day and sandesh, and
He came for
here
you.
it's funny.
Your beautiful flower-like heart. That's why he's coming. I think we can all see that. So let me share some pictures. And I think these pictures, like this particular one. Okay. This is same Jagannath, isn't it, Radhika?
Yeah, that was right. That was right when he arrived in America, and it was the craziest story because Premananda Prabhu, he's such a magnificent Vaishnav, and I just want to really also honor and remember him, because if it wasn't for Prabhuji, the last 10 years of my life, he carried me through Gurudev's disappearance. I would have had no opportunity like I've had to serve Srila Gurudev. Gurudev said that he's Seva Ratna and he teaches service, perfect service to Sri Guru. And so he's teaching me how to serve Srila Gurudev, and any opportunity I've had to do any seva for Gurudev has been through Sripad Premananda Prabhu and Shamarani Didi. So I'm very, very grateful to both of them for their mercy. And so he sent these Didis back, and it was very crazy because when I went to bring them from Navadvipa, they were in Navadvipa at the time, and all the Dambasis were very upset with me, and they told me I was like Akura taking Krishna away, and they were very, very sad. And when I brought them they were in China, and no one would help me in the Chinese airport. There was one big bin of Jagannath, one of Subhadra, one of Baladev, and one of Sudarshan, filled, very heavy. And I had to push Jagannath, then push Baladev, then push Subhadra, then push Sudarshan, all the way from one terminal in the Chinese airport to another terminal. It was so crazy. And then I missed my flight and I was stuck in China for 48 hours. I didn't know. So at this moment in this picture, I was so relieved that how Jagannath made it and he's here, in America.
That's such an amazing story. Like, it's just speechless. Okay, let's see. Okay, can you see this? No, right?
God. Why are you showing this? You should be showing pictures of Gurudev. This is awkward.
This is the only childhood picture. I thought it was the cutest thing. Little Radhika, even she's like a toddler, but she's, full devotee. She's a little gopi. So this is actually Radhika's grandfather, and this was probably in the 90s, right, Radhika?
No, this was in the 80s. This was just 3-4 years after Srila Prabhupada entered Samadhi.
Wow.
And my mother was actually there. My mother was 11 years old. That was the first time she saw Srila Gurudev. And this was that famous picture where Gurudev is, he has his arm up in the air and he's Bhaktivedanta Swami, where she's speaking very strongly, and he installed the murti, the golden murti of Srila Prabhupada at his samadhi. In fact, I want to show you 1 minute.
This is in Vrindavan, I think, right?
Yeah,
This is also from that time.
Okay.
I think the same day. See, he's wearing the same garland.
Yeah. And there's a famous video as well of him singing Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhu. I think same day, right, Radhika?
No, that was sung at Srila Prabhupada's when he entered Samadhi.
Samadhi.
This was the installation after they completed the mandir, and Gurudev installed the golden murti of Srila Prabhupada. This was on that day.
Wow. So this is Radhika in 2010. Okay.
that was at in Ojai at my grandparents' house.
Okay, so Gurudev's last few days, I guess, in the US.
Yeah,
Little Radhika,
that's my little brother.
so sweet, so sweet.
That was the first time when Gurudev came to my house.
Mm-hmm.
So I had just met Gurudev there.
So beautiful. So this is Radhika at the Samadhi, right? Like when the Samadhi was in construction,
Mhm.
she worked
Yeah.
on what are they called, Radhika? They're not called statues. They're called dioramas.
Yeah, that's what they've been calling them. These are they were first molded in clay and then they were done in fiberglass after the clay model was made. So that's the one from Shamarani Didi's painting of Radha alone. She's sitting.
Right.
So Premananda Prabhu and Shamarani Didi were not there at the time, but Didi was writing different advice for the Murtiwalas, and then basically I was just telling the Murtiwalas what her advice was and stuff.
Oh, beautiful.
That was in Canada, Vancouver.
So sweet. Okay, that's it.
That was when Gurudev was telling me the story of Harinam. Remember? Don't.
Oh.
Yeah. He was saying that, and then Gurudev was massaging his feet, his own feet.
Wow.
So I just got this urge. So I reached up and I just grabbed Gurudev's foot and I just started to massage his feet like that. And Gurudev looked at me and went, oh, and like, and then I got to do it for like a few seconds and then out of my afterwards. Okay,
That's so sweet. Oh my gosh. Radhika, that was just like, I think it just transported me into like Gurudev's, like, just, it felt like a direct darshan of Gurudev and his mercy and his bhav. And just your whole like journey in this talk started with, your first words probably being Srila Prabhupada. And before even meeting Gurudev, you wanted to have an initiation of him because the other kids, when someone else has something, you want it too.
Him,
Yeah, and it was I can definitely relate to that because when I was around the same age, like I was 12 when I met Gurudev, and I would see people like doing this and holding, and I would think, oh my god, that's so cool, like I want that, whatever that is, I want that. So I can totally relate to that. But then going from that, a seemingly external thing, your journey took us into like the deep moods of Srila Gurudev's separation and what he really wanted to give us, and his hallmark of pure bhakti and Radha Dasyam, and even to the little kids, the 5-year-olds, the toddlers, he gave our goal as Radha Dasyam, and there was never any confusion about that. There was nothing vague, no doubt. It was just so black and white. It was so clear, and he's certainly very unique in this aspect, even comparing to like other acharyas, that he leaves no room for any like different interpretations or anything like that. He's so clear. And that reminded me of a talk that I heard from Ramananda and Prabhu in the UK. He said that Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Maharaj, he revealed that we all don't have the permission to speak about Radharani so openly, but Radharani has actually given permission only to Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj that he can speak. oh, we cannot speak, but he can speak. And really, like, he did that, did he, boy, did he speak about Radharani. And yeah, so just, him giving a meaning to your name, and your mother's name, which are like the perfect Radhika and Manjari. These are the words that I think we heard Gurudev, like every other word. And then, telling you that you're from Golok is that's such a deep thing, telling a child that is just instilling this deep sense of identity. This is who I am, nothing else. And
Like a compass,
yeah.
Gurudev is like a compass.
I loved hearing about Gurudev wanting you to be materially educated, and I know that you finished your degree. I think you went to Foot College, and and I think Gurudev I always heard that from Gurudev, that my daughters are the top of the class. I heard this even when he came to Australia and New Zealand. He would say, my daughters are the top of the class. He didn't neglect material education, because I know he wanted his daughters to be strong preachers. And if we want to preach out in this world, we need to know the ways of this world. So he wanted us to be so strong and be independent. So, and I can see that now you are strong and so independent and traveling and preaching and teaching and supporting yourself. And for those that don't know, Radhika teaches singing. And so, she's really following that desire that Gurudev had for her. I can relate so much to crying all the time. Like, Gurudev would make us all cry. And I think it's because it's just, sometimes he wouldn't say anything. It was just like you're in front of him and it's just tears would come.
I remember when he would say, like, oh, how are you? He would ask, how are you? And then you just start
that's all.
crying.
It didn't require anything. He didn't even have to like go into speaking about Radharani or anything. It was just like being in his presence, because his energy, like I think it's something that we cannot contain as Baddha Jivas. We just can't contain. And so tears would just flow, because there's like nothing else we could express. Mala, I thought that was so profound, Gurudev giving so much importance to our beads that come from Guru. It just and as well as the story of with the Harinaam Tua Aneka Swarupa, this bhajan, I'll take that as an instruction for myself, because I always neglect my Harinam. I neglect doing my Harinam properly and with the real realization of what it is. And you reminding me that Gurudev is telling us that our chanting is our life and soul. Our Harinam is our greatest possession and our greatest treasure that Gurudev has given us. And this is the only way we can actually, it's a Chintamani jewel. This is the only way that we can actually be connected to him. And so that was a really, really important reminder. You reminded us that parikrama is so dear to him and so important. He always reiterated this fact: come to parikrama, come to Navadvipa, come to Braj Mandal during Kartik. And that Gurudev has so many different relationships with us. And I think this is such a beautiful thing, because so I always hear, oh, Gurudev, he's like my father, he's like my grandfather. But really, I think Gurudev is so much more than that. He's so much more than, a grandfather. He is, like you said, he's mother, he's father, he's friend, he's our best friend, he's our everything. Actually, I think defining a relationship with him is actually limiting, but his his relationship with us and his mercy for us is so unlimited. It's just shining for his like the sun, a million suns shining from every direction. So that was really beautiful. And then even like our prayers, you prayed to Giriraj, and he hears your prayer, because you wanted to sing for him. He hears our prayers because he's the one making our relationship with everyone else, all these amazing divine personalities. We don't have a relationship with them directly, so he hears our prayers, and he's always, I think, even filtering our prayers and making sure that we ask for the right thing. And
I asked Premananda Prabhu one time. I asked him for Giriraj. He said, if you have Giriraj, then Giriraj will give you all of your desires, all your material desires, whatever you pray for, Giriraj is giving you. He said, you just have Gurudev. If you have Gurudev, then Gurudev will only give you what's good for you.
Yeah. And I mean, that reminds me, I was reading in Walking with the Saint, someone asked this question to Gurudev. They said, at the time of death, should we think about Guru, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or Radha Krishna? Something along those lines. And then he says, his answer was, there's no difference.
Wow.
So so powerful. Like he's our everything. He is our most worshipable, and he is he's our like the way I feel, he's everything. Radha and Krishna we really don't know, but Gurudev, he's such a reality to us, so we can pray to him everything, and he will actually make our prayers all auspicious, because we don't even know what to pray for. You reminded us of priceless days on parikrama with Gurudev, watching him honor prasad. I was thinking these are so rare, and that you got an opportunity to see all that. I think it was only for a few occasions that I even had this experience, and I know a lot of people, we couldn't actually see those. Gurudev out on parikrama, and Gurudev like having prasad in front of everyone. Those days are just I think in that time we all just took it for granted, Yet we did love it so much. In being in the moment, it was like the best thing ever. But looking back, it's just makes me feel like we didn't realize, like, he was here. He was, walking among us, talking with us, eating in front of us. So that's basically just a few notes I wanted to reflect. One thing I want to finish up with before I hand over to Ajay Prabhu is I heard recently one sweet thing about Radhika. There was one devotee that came to take diksha from Gurudev, and he was thinking, what profound thing can I tell Gurudev? And he said to Gurudev, Radhika was also there, that Gurudev, I want to give you my heart.
I was really little, so I actually don't remember this at all. Like, he's saying this happened, but I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I don't remember it. I was really small.
The recollection of a devotee. So he says, I want to give you my heart, Gurudev. And Gurudev points at Radhika and says, she has given me her heart. Can you do? So I thought, so sweet. And now, like, hearing so many things from Radhika, I just I can see that her heart is fully drenched with Gurudev's mercy and placed at his lotus feet. And I just want to thank you, Radhika, for sharing your beautiful experiences with us and inspiring us so much. Thank you. I will pass on to Ajay Krishna Prabhu.
So nice, Didi. You spoke really well. And it was so inspiring to see so many beautiful words from a young girl and her realization, which even I think 80-year-old people also don't have. And at such a young age, she has realized so much of Guru and Vaishnavas and seva. I must tell you that she was planned to speak a month before, and she forgot the date, or maybe she did not notice, or some confusion. And now I realize why it happened. because she wanted to, her Thakurji wanted to hear the story of Gurudev in front of her. And again, she postponed her date. She was planned for 27th. And then she said, I can't speak because my Thakurji is coming. I said, well, we'll do it on 29th. And now I know all this thing, why it was happening, because I think Jagannath is very happy today to hear about Srila Gurudev from her lotus mouth. And we all can see she has such intimate, close relationship with Gurudev at such a young age. It's really incredible. And how she belongs to a family of devotees, her grandfather, father, mother. It is not very common. And it's very fortunate to have taken birth in such a family. So really nice, Radhika. I was very touched by your story and by your presentation. She started with...
I'm embarrassed hearing your words, because if you actually know my actual life and all my bogus nature, then you
I think this is your actual life, what I heard from you. You started with your inspiration from Srila.
Stubborn, very independent, very not surrendered person at all. I'm always resisting Gurudev's mercy and desire, and but by force, he's such a mother, Gurudev he's by force, he's somehow is always present and there, but that's his causeless mercy. It doesn't have anything to do with me. That's the truth.
Gurudev used to say all the gopis have different nature. Some are surrendering, some are not surrendering. Some are doing man, some are not doing man. So you are one of those who is not surrendering. Krishna likes them most. People who are ready to fight with him, and they're not surrendering very easily. So he has more to play with them. Anyways, I just want to say a few things. I think I wrote on lots of things because everything was so good. You said when you met Gurudev, it was love at first sight. Yes, we can see this affair through your talks. Then his sweet crooked glance. Yes, Gurudev was like that. Sometimes he would make a glance like this. Very, very charming. And he has so many forms, you said. Yes. And then you said every word was Srimati Radhika. When you met Gurudev, everything changed so much from ISKCON. Like you hardly heard your name there, but here now you're hearing Radhika, Radhika all the time. Within 24 hours, I knew I want to become Palidasi Radharani. Yes. So powerful. Within 24 hours, you had your goal clear. Only a Mahabhagavat like Gurudev can do this. And then he changed your name, no Radhika Leela Dasi, directly Radha Dasi. Yeah. How sweet and how powerful. And first meeting with your mother, you described, oh, you have come. I've heard this expression from many people who've spoken on this program. He said, oh, you come, aa gaye, aap aa gaye. Hindi mein used to speak like this. As if he's waiting for so long to meet you. And then you made very good statement. With Gurudev, you feel your purest self, highest self. Nothing else. Yes. I think all of us who met, we always felt like this. He looks past everything. He only looks at your pure nature, and he does not look at your shortcomings. We have so many of them. And then you gave about your identity. New Braj, he asked you, where are you from? He said, you gave so much explanation. He said, no, I'm from Golok Vrindavan. I'm a servant in line of Prabhupada. Spiritual identity, pure identity, yes. If we have identity like this will help us so much in our spiritual life, I think. If you just think like this, even if artificially, still it is better, I think. It will create a aura around it. And then you talked very nicely about how we came to Braj, how we turned Bejar into Braj, ordinary rock into Govardhan, ordinary forest into Vrindavan. So yes, that was his quality. Wherever he went, he had Braj around him. And the Braj traveled with him, I think. And once he said also, somebody said that they put him in a hotel and there was so much noise whole night. There was a party going on next to the hotel, and in the morning they apologized. Said, Gurudev, we are sorry. There's so much noise. I know you couldn't sleep. He said, no, I didn't hear any noise. I was hearing only flute. So he wasn't Braj actually. And then you very sweetly explained how he rolled the windows and called with his fingers, come here and sing Radha Madhav. so much personal relationship. And then he wanted you to become expert in all instruments, mridang, piano. And I think you have become expert, and you are expert in all the instruments, mridang, piano. And you're teaching vocal, or are you teaching instrument also?
Vocal.
Oh, okay. I think I'll tell my daughter to, she's also Radhika, to get in touch with you and learn some vocals. So how do you teach? You teach online, or how you?
Yeah, on Zoom.
Okay, okay. And then you said Gurudev was very broad-minded. Yes, indeed, he was very broad-minded. He would, he was not like a regular guru, I would say. He was very broad-minded, very connecting to everyone, very intimate with everyone, and very personal with everyone. Very rare to see a person like this, like him. But even a guru also very difficult to see. And then he told you should not depend on any man, be strong. Yeah, as a Gurudev disciple, we don't need to depend on anybody except him. We have such a powerful personality with us, so we should depend on Gurudev. And then you said he opened the door, whole ocean of pure devotees. Yes, he did actually. We knew nobody, and now we know so many devotees, so many Prabhupada's disciples, all because of him. He introduced us to a whole family. Without family, if you know just one person, like how they do mostly in some other organizations, it is not complete. Gurudev used to say, we have to follow Rupa Goswami, we have to follow Prabhupada, we have to follow everybody. Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. Our success by material, in material nature is by material possessions we have, but in the spiritual world, you said how many guardians we have. Yes, the more Mahabhagas we meet, more mercy we have from them, that much more we progress. And he brought them all into our lives. And you said when you met Gurudev, it was not like a usual relationship that he will examine you and you examine your Gurudev because you are a child. You were just in love with him. If you're in love with him, then there's no need for examination, I think. Examination is only when you use your mind, not your heart. And it's just like in the material also. If you fall in love, then you don't examine anything. Then you forget about what else around that person is there. But yeah, when you're not in love, then you need to examine. Then you need to use your mind. And it was very nice that you were straight away in love with him. As you said, love at first sight. So where's the question of examination? And I loved the statement the most you made. You don't have to deserve it, you have to desire it. Yes, the bhakti is so strong, and even if nobody of us deserve it anyways, we don't have qualification, nobody can have qualification of bhakti, but it is so pure and so big. So only thing is we need to desire it. Even for Gurudev's service, I think we just need to desire it, it comes to us then automatically. And you made so many very strong, powerful statements. In San Diego 2001, you said he was here to end our business in material world. Chop, chop, chop. Yes. Chop, chop, chop. He's going to do that if you allow him to. Even if you don't allow, still he's going to do it, he said. So, and then very sweetly you talked about, you did the play, you forgot your lines, and he said, right, come, can somebody help the little girl there? Yeah. And then he knew that you wanted diksha. You had not told anybody, but he asked you. I heard you wanted diksha. So he hears everything, whatever we have in our heart. And then when you lost your mala, how he chastised you. You talked in great detail. I don't care Hawaii, Manjari, Fanjari. How are you alive? He said. Yes, he was so much, he didn't like anybody to lose their mala. I remember in our house once somebody said, Gurudev, or in I think Mathura Math, I lost my mala, and I have another one. Then you said, have you ever lost your kanka jhumka, the earrings? You never lost your earrings. How do you lose your mala? So they were like that at all. And we can see from how much angry he was. And then he showed you, I had this for 60 years, his own mala. Yes.
Yeah.
And then he instructed you to sing Harinaam Tuya while we remember chanting every day. I think we all should take this for ourselves also. We should try to remember the meaning of this song, Harinaam Tuya. We don't have time, otherwise we would have heard from you. And when we do chanting, like Gurudev said. And sleeping during Harinam, yeah, he said it's like a treasure. It's much more than treasure actually. But what other comparison can we understand other than treasure? Because we know only treasure as the biggest thing in our life. So Gurudev said this, it's like a treasure, and he wants everyone to chant 64 rounds. I remember once he was talking to his ISKCON devotees, and he was showing his bead bag like this. He said, your Gurudev told you to chant 16 rounds only, right? Because a lot of them say 16 rounds. Then he said, why did you give these 4 beads here? He gave it to you. He asked everybody, all of the audience, he said, did he give this 4 also on the side of 16? He said, yes. Then why did he give this? He wanted you to chant 64, but he very in a smart way told you 16 initially, but eventually you have to chant 64, like you said. And then how nice and loving he was to your Christian friend. It speaks of his magnanimity of his heart. He had no barriers for anybody. Whosoever came to him, he loved him. From the bottom of his heart, he gave him everything. And you're very fortunate, Radhika, to do Aarti, Chandan, Garland, and Key Lamp to Srila Gurudev. I don't think many people have that opportunity to do it directly to him. Maybe Maharaj, some few they do it, but a young girl like you who's able to do Aarti with so much, it's all because of guidance from your mother, I think. If you have parents like this.
Also, the very last day that I was with Gurudev and interacted with him in a personal way. I was there in Kartik in 2010 when he was going through his Leela. But the last time when I was interacting with him personally.
Where was this?
In Ojai at my grandparents' house in 2010. It was like June before he went to I think Italy or Russia. Then it was Father's Day, and I was there with my friend Malini, and he was sitting on the couch. Nobody was there. He was just lounging, you know. He would just walk around the house and sit here and sit there. So he was sitting on the couch. So I got an arti plate together. I thought, nobody's here. This is the perfect chance. So I went up to Gurudev. It was Father's Day. And I sang the whole Sri Guru Charana Padma, and I did the whole arti for him. Just me and Malini and Gurudev. No one else there. I did the whole arti. I said, Gurudev, it's Father's Day. I want to do arti. Gurudev was sitting very shy, you know, and I'm doing all the arti and singing to him. And it was very powerful, very sweet.
It is indeed very, very powerful, and the blessings you get by doing such artis, you cannot express, I think, and so much of sanskars you get, and you're so fortunate to have all those. And then Gurudev told you, I have so many relationships with you, that you are my daughter directly, my granddaughter, and many more. Have you discovered many more of those relationships? You must be discovering them just slowly, I think. They will open up. And you told Gurudev we have same birthday. So how intimate, God. Who can tell Gurudev like this?
One time I told Gurudev, I said, I don't want to share you with anyone else. I just want you to be only my Gurudev. He wasn't happy with that. He said, no, don't say that.
Yeah, what will happen to all of us?
I don't like that either.
I want to share you. I just want you to be only mine. Only my Gurudev. I don't want to share you.
So, and then you talked that he started ignoring you in one Kartik. Yeah, he did that with many people. He would do his Leela like this, and he would increase our longing for him. And then you said they all communicate. Tulsi communicates with Yogamaya, communicate with Gurudev, communicate with Radha Krishna, communicate with gopis. Yes, they're all interconnected, and they all talk to each other. Hopefully, we can also enter that network someday of communication. And you talked about Jagannath Ji. They make you miss Vaishnavas and Gurudev. Yes, I think because Dev and Gurudev was there. And how fortunate you are to have the Jagannath Ji across so many miles. I don't know how they reached and how you described how you carried them. It requires a lot of faith and love for Jagannath to carry them like this in China, and you have to miss your flight, stay for 48 hours. So that speaks of your love for Jagannath. Where else they could go? They had to come to you because you worked so much for them. Yeah. And then you talked about being in right mood, sitting in the dust with Gurudev. Yes, it's really nice. We're lucky to have those darshan of Gurudev, and he would sit under a tree on the dust and talk to us in that mood of Raj. And then he would insist everybody for 1 month, you should leave everything behind and be in mood of Goswamis, at least for a month. And Vishaya Chadiya Kabhi Shuddha Have Man, Kabhi Ham Herab Shri Vrindavan. This should be our prayer, only prayer. When will I search for that Vrindavan? When will I have long for it? And this was really very amazing that how on this last trip in Bejar in 2010, he chose a topic, Krishna left Vrindavan and never returned. He said he would never return. He himself said this. And that means he had a whole plan set for himself. He had planned way in advance, maybe a year or two, that he wants to live in this year, this way. So he's talking about all these things. We had no idea why is he saying all this, but he knew everything. And you talk about this bhajan manro lagena sakhiri sham bina. We heard this from memories of our Dorilal Prabhu. This was the kirtan he sang first time for Srila Gurudev and last time also. If you remember, you were in that parikrama in Kartik. He came and gave that last darshan from the door, and then he looked for Dorilal, and nobody was understanding what he's saying. He's showing his hand gesture, and then suddenly Dorilal understood, and he asked him to sing a kirtan, and he sang this one.
No, he's saying Sakiri Mere Mana.
Oh, sorry, Sakiri. Okay. I mixed up.
We were actually, I remember Radhika and
Sakiri,
we were sitting right there.
Yeah.
Like close to.
Yeah. So yeah, he loved those separation kirtans so much. And then how is Krishna Satya Sankalpa and how he never came back. And it was so amazing. I thought also that he would give some philosophical answer. And indeed, there are philosophical answers for all these things. But Gurudev did not say all those things. And he said, he joined your bhav with his own bhav. And he said, yeah, he should have come. And you should bring him now. So I think you are doing that to Jagannath ji already. You brought him to your Braj.
Upset.
Sorry?
Like, he really looked upset. Like, why they did not do. He looked very annoyed.
Yeah. I mean, to other people, he would probably explain why it happened philosophically. But to you, he joined your mood himself.
He revealed his true mood.
Yeah, and he said you should bring him now, and you bought them already in your house, in your Braj like house, I think. And last instruction is read Bhagavatam, speak Bhagavatam, and become Bhagavatam. I think we should all take this very seriously. We should follow Gurudev's instruction. Read Bhagavatam, speak Bhagavatam, and become Bhagavatam. And you should become a pure devotee, become loyal to me. That was his personal instruction to you. Real Vyas Puja. And happy moments of life is when you make Gurudev happy. Yes, this is a trick. If you want to become happy, you make your Gurudev happy, do things for him. And in turn, as a byproduct, you'll be happy. Material world is disappointing. Not many people have this experience, Radhika. And I'm very happy you're such a young age, you know this. Even with our families, it is a disappointment. They are there for a reason.
Yeah, Gurudev said when I was young, he was very strong with a lot of the girls about wanting them to be like his brahmacharis. Like, he was very strong with us. Even if they couldn't do, still he would try with all the girls that they should be like the Ganga Matas, like that. So he said, when me and Janava were in the room one time with Gurudev, so he said to me, do you want to do like your mother? Like, my mother was married and stuff. And he said, she has gone through so much. She's suffered so much in different just the material world. And he said, do you want to suffer like that? I'm like 14, I don't know anything. He says, do you want to suffer? And then he says, don't do. He said, follow me. And at that time, I think Chandramukhi and Haripriya were traveling together and preaching everywhere. So he pointed to Chandramukhi. He said, follow like her, like here and there. And follow me, whole life, follow me, and you will be so happy. Like that. Very sweet.
Yes. And then talked about lessons. How to do bhajan in separation is to realize my guru loves me and he'll never leave me. Yes, this first lesson in bhajan. We should all try to understand this, and that he's always with us and listening to us, seeing us, overseeing us. And second lesson you said is harinam is like umbilical cord which connects us to Gurudev. It indeed is. So these two things we should always keep in our mind. And you also gave a very nice example, like a baby in the womb of a mother. She doesn't know where her mother is, but she's actually inside her mother. So Gurudev is also like this with us. And then if you told in the end that if we chant like this in Harinam, Gurudev would appear in front of us. And that is our aim of this life, that he should appear in front of us. He should talk to us again. And then you talked about the statement by, I think, Bhaktivinoda Tirth Maharaj. The only happiness in this material world is separation with Guru. So we need to realize this and understand how it is. When we feel separation from Guru, that is the first thing we'll have separation. Separation with the Lord will be later, I think. So Radhika Didi, thank you so much. Thank you. And
Thank you.
it was indeed very inspiring and very heart-touching. And I hand over to Haripriya again for tomorrow's program. Thank you, Haripriya Didi, also. Very nicely conducted.
Prabhu, you're so dear to Srila Gurudev, and I know this seva is very pleasing to him. So thank you for holding this space for all the devotees to hear the glorification of Gurudev, especially those that didn't get to meet Gurudev personally, who are getting the opportunity to hear, and also those who are getting the opportunity to share. It's an invaluable service that you're doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I believe tomorrow we have Shripad Tirthpad Prabhu. Is that right, Ajay Prabhu?
Yes.
So Tirthpad Prabhu is a very senior devotee. He's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He took initiation from him in 1973. And so he has so many nice... he's had association of Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, and he has many realizations through these associations. He served Srila Gurudev from 1990 through 2010, and we also know that his daughters, I think he has like 2 or 3 daughters, and Janava is his daughter. It's a very beautiful devotee family, so he's very nice. We have an opportunity to hear from him tomorrow. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to having you all tomorrow. Thank you, Ajay Prabhu, and Vijay Prabhu also for engaging me.